20 years on, it's almost hard to believe because it feels just as vivid as the day that it happened. As I think about Tuesday, September the 11th, 2001. So we were there. I was with a group of 10 others. At the time, I was managing a firm called Godfrey Pembroke Financial Consultants. I was a young managing director, and we were on a so-called study tour of the US, and quite frankly, we were having a great time. On Tuesday, the 11th of September at 8 a.m, I'd wanted to go to breakfast before our 9 a.m. appointment, which was in the World Trade Center precinct of Manhattan. My travelling colleagues had talked me out of doing the breakfast at 8 a.m. And had convinced me that we would go and get some photos from the windows on the World Restaurant at the top of the North Tower at the 110th level at about 10:30 a.m. Had I gone to the breakfast at 8 a.m, then I would have perished with everyone else who was above the 91st floor of the North Tower. And I was on the right-hand side of the cab on West Street, and we were travelling up West Street, just approaching the World Trade Center precinct, and I looked up. For whatever reasons, I looked up at the North Tower and saw it explode. And I actually had, I know the listeners can't see it, but I had my trusty Pentax camera.
Oh, that's an old school camera.
So here's one of the photos that I took. So I've leaned out the cab window and taken it. I heard something. I saw the explosion. I didn't know what had caused the explosion, but it was an almighty explosion, as you can imagine. And I actually thought we were going to die at that moment because the building exploded towards us and down. 2 or 3 cabs in front of us, 2 or 3 cars in front of us. All of the cars were completely, completely destroyed by the building. So we were very, very close to being on the wrong side of that line. Within moments, there seemed to be police on horseback and people running and screaming, and it was just absolute mayhem.
And did you run, or did you get back? You couldn't get back in a taxi, could you?
We got back in the cab, and the cab driver just refused to move. And so what we suggested to him, that he needed to ram the cars around us and go down the footpath and get the hell out of there, because we were fearful of what was coming next. So he rammed a few cars, and we went down the footpath and knocked over a few things, and you can understand it was mayhem, mate. So I think the first lesson is get on with life, do what you plan to do. Don't be scared by things that happen around you out of your control. Eventually it all passes and life goes on. So don't let events of the past sort of impinge on or detract from the future. So I think that's a key thing, to stay optimistic, stay positive, and get on with life regardless of the challenges around you. And COVID, I think, is a further example of that.
Measure what you can control as well. Keep in your sphere.
Yeah.
Look at what you can control, which was something that helped us tremendously throughout COVID.
9/11, I couldn't control any of that, like none of it, and it threatened my life and the life of my fellow travellers, and took the lives of thousands of people. So, do you let that trouble you or not? What do you learn from it? It's about taking control of the things that you can control, and you can control what you do, how you do it, the plans that you make, the things that you decide to do. And so that saying of, not to put off till tomorrow to what you can do today, like there's something about, if you can do it today, do it today. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. And no one rang a bell just before the first tower exploded. There's no warning that something bad's going to happen. It just happens. And so you just don't know what might come or not come. And, COVID's proved to us over the last year and a half that we don't know. Now, we could sit around worrying about it. We could sit around putting off our plans. We could sit around saying it's all too hard. But just imagine if your approach to COVID was, it's all too hard, and a year and a half later, it's still hard. So it's just a classic, whether it's 9/11, whether it's COVID, whatever it is, people have just got to get on with their lives and do the best they can and pivot and be agile and
adapt.
And just adapt. Yeah, just give it a go.